What's going on, everybody? Happy to be back at the command station after a long week cruising the Pacific seas. It was a wild pulse chain tour ending. Got to see a lot of the big names that have been traveling the country all year round. Some thoughts on the cruise. It was a successful thing, successful meeting. There was a couple things that happened on there that some people might not know about. One of the things was there's a group getting started up by a guy by the name of Bar Chef on Twitter. First name's Marlon. He's working on creating this pulse chain foundation, and I thought that was a very noble act and something that the community really needs to get involved in and rally around. They got some cool ideas going on over there in terms of trying to spearhead how are we going to market pulse chain to the broader audiences, and how are we going to take it more in a professional direction, both for the long-term success of pulse chain and hex. It really requires a new approach, something that maybe we haven't seen in the past. A lot of hex's success was because of one man getting on a camera and backing it financially, as well as Twitter warriors going around and saying our coin's better than yours. But I think what's going on with the Pulse Chain Foundation is a good step in the right direction. So I would encourage everybody to go take a look into that. Maybe message Bar Chef on Twitter through DMs and ask him for more information. Some of the hot details is they're looking at doing different kinds of there's different ways to get exposure through membership that would then give you access to an NFT. So then you'd become eligible to vote for who gets put on the board, and kind of what the negotiations are, what's the short-term plan of action, how are they gonna, what's the first goal. So one of the goals I know that came up on the cruise was, do we approach CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko and make them take us seriously, or what needs to get done in that regard, so that we're not like the laughing stock of the crypto community anymore, and we get placed properly on the ranking sites, because whether or not we like it or not, that's where people come to do their research, for better or for worse. So that's one of the developments going on. What else? There's a team, a small team, a couple guys came together to start a project to create liquid staking on Pulse Chain, which gives people the ability to validate and get validator rewards with less than the 32 million Pulse requirement for validators. So I want you to look into Pulse Pi, or Pi Pulse, I think is what it is. Check out Van's Twitter. I'll try to remember what that is and get it to you guys. But they're working on a pretty cool contract to give the little guys more of a chance, because as Pulse Chain increases in value, it's going to be harder and harder for people to validate. They got a couple different options for you there. So yeah, a couple things that went on the ship. Of course, there was other more closed door meetings that went on. Of course, I can't touch on everything, but it was a fun trip, and I'm excited to share more as I can. So I actually I'm still waiting on Proof of Beard to join. Don't know where he went. He might have passed out on the couch or something. He's supposed to unveil some cool work he's been doing for me for axisALiVE.com. So hopefully he'll pop in here. And I also got with me Crispy Man, my partner in crime in the crypto scene. I'll probably pull him up now. What's up, Crispy Man?
Access.
I hope you're doing good today, brother.
Sunday and Monday are fun days for Axis. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend here that good things happen for Axis on Sundays. Going back to our streams, I see Crypto Sloth in the chat. Shout out to you, buddy. You guys Sloth and I will be going live with Walrus here in the not too distant future. It's actually on me. I have to reply to the DM on what day we're going to do it, but probably be getting together and going over liquid loans. I'll go over liquid loans a little bit today. just because it's a pretty interesting platform and there's a lot of opportunity in there right now. In the first 42 days, is there's extra incentive to get into things like the stability pool and a couple other things on there. So that liquid loans launched successfully. Pulse responded with an immediate pump and then an immediate dump thereafter. And now things are trying to start to base out. But we'll take a look at that in a little bit. Any observations from your vantage point while I've been gone in terms of liquid loans or the launch or pricing, anything in that regard?
Wow, that's interesting, right? There's so much happening in just a week. We moved along. I was happy to see liquid loans launch. Happy to see that. Wish the project really well. I participate a little bit in there, so, but yeah, I mean, big, boring observation maybe, but the big observation, we just got to let some time pass, time in the market for things to settle down.
Isn't that the irony of cryptocurrency is so much can happen in so little time, but yet we always encourage patience and giving the market time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the other thing is, we all get attached to these numbers on paper, and there was some discussion about that while you were away as well, out there on the old X and Twitter, right? Just this idea that you don't own these numbers just because prices go up doesn't mean you get to keep them, right? And so, yeah, you always have to be on your toes and have your long-term plan. I think there's been a lot of fanfare discussion about, how liquid loans did their LP. I kind of like how they did it. I mean, I get that a lot of people might want to sell, but, so therefore the LP isn't there without the slippage yet. It's going to take some time, but they're looking to build up the LP. So I know there's a lot of consternation about that.
Yeah, I noticed that the price started off at like $90,000 and then immediately sold down to like a sub penny, right? And we'll dive into that when we get into the chart. It was really just a couple $2,000, $3,000 sells that knocked it down. And what's one of the conversations we were having on the boat was, why did liquid loans start the price so high? Was it an error? Did they miss a zero when they made the ratio in the beginning? Did they what happened there? What happened? Why did they decide to take that approach?
Well, I'll tell you, I think what we do know for sure, right? Kind of rudimentary. Price would have stayed there if people didn't sell. Right? So, well, I mean, people sold, right, and that's how it works. And sure, they could have put their entire war chest up there, and but it would all be immediately sold down.
Yeah, not advisable. Not something you want to see as founders that made millions of dollars from the sacrifice phase go and put all their chips on the table right after launch, because you got a lot of people that have, with pent up demand for selling, that have been waiting on that sacrifice for a long time. So you don't really want to launch a coin and have all of the available liquidity out there on the table right away. Or what ends up happening is the founders end up left with nothing to work to build, continue to build and grow the ecosystem that they're trying to create. And then a few crypto nerds walk away with all the cash, and usually that does not come back into the system. But so we got some stuff to cover today. I'm gonna pull up Paulie said on the cruise he won a badass Axis flag, and I actually was the first winner of the raffle on the tour. I was the first winner. So I got to pick anything that I wanted. I was gonna go for one of the Axis flags, but I actually decided on getting one of these HEX coins. I don't know who made these, but I saw that gold HEX coin. I'm like, yeah, I want that. I'm always been a HEX fanboy. I'm a HEX miner through and through. I think that's like one of the most sadistically twisted strategies for getting mad gains is getting as many millions of HEX as possible and staking it in a very well thought out strategic sort of way, because it'll always put you in a position of strength, and then you don't have to take the risk of LPing so heavily or making leverage trades or any of that stuff, because you can count on that ladder paying you on a consistent basis. And the other thing that I got on the trip was this coin from somebody I met It's a Donald Trump copper coin. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, it was a fun-filled event. Got a lot of free stuff. Gave away a lot of free stuff. Like, I think I gave away a hat, 2 shirts. Actually, they were the OG Axis shirts I used to wear on stream. All I have left is this Axis sweater. So I got to go put my order in on the merch store for some more things. And then actually, Vets and Crypto won the other flag that I gave a couple flags away as well. So, all right, that was nice. Yeah, so we wanted to touch on first some of the. You guys are really Thanks for being active in the chat. That's awesome. Appreciate that. I probably won't be able to follow it so much as I get into the analysis, but yeah, feel free to just go hammer away on the keyboard. Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to share my screen. We wanted to talk a little bit about sentiment first on the overall crypto market, but also just generally in the RH market as well. Pull this up. Bam. Looks good for crypto. Crypto fear and greed index is at a 74. So it's saying greedy. Well, why would that be? Well, because Bitcoin is on a ripper, man. Bitcoin's been... Larry Fink got on TV and said Bitcoin is a flight to quality after positioning below $20,000. They're happy to talk publicly about it now. Meanwhile, JP Morgan's making hit pieces on the stock market.
I know. Yeah. Anybody who's watched this, it's plain as day. They just do it that way, right? So they talk it down while they're buying and talk it up when they're selling.
Oh yeah. Markets are kind of backwards like that, huh?
Yeah. I mean, that's how it is.
So here's the max length chart here of over the past. Let's see. This goes back to February 2018. I mean, you can see a consistent uptrend. Now this looks kind of like the Bitcoin chart because I think Bitcoin is heavily weighted in valuing the crypto fear and greed index, which that's why maybe in RH world we don't feel this euphoric as like the Bitcoin guys are right now. But that's okay because, past cycles, HEX always did its best moves when Bitcoin had already topped or was in a sideways or downwards price pattern. Is that something that you recall from ancient memory?
Yeah. I mean, I can't put it as eloquently as that, but yes.
I'm trying to draw lines here. I like drawing lines. It's one of the things I do best. So this is in a channel. This is sentiment, right? So I mean, looks ripe for like a retracement and then a blow off top. I mean, this could be. We could be hitting these like 80, 90 levels, relatively soon. I would like to think, sometime in 24, 25, the whole crypto market as a whole is going to get you like extra euphoric. Obviously, when Bitcoin dominance finally starts to roll over. Right now, it's currently Bitcoin dominance has been flying higher as altcoins have struggled to keep up. Short term, now recently we've seen actually Ethereum start to pick up a little bit on that front.
Yeah, I mean, you can, in terms of hitting levels, right? You can see that Bitcoin's done that. We were talking about that golden ratio the other day in the private session, and you can clearly see that Ethereum's tracking and everything else is tracking just slightly after Ethereum, And so, yes, I know a lot of people go, oh, yeah, but what about my Pulse? Pulse is doing nothing. I hear the FUD too. I see it. But in my mind, it takes time, right? I mean, it takes time for the value to move over. And actually, we've had quite a bit of volatility in the Pulse and Pulse chain itself. So things also look to me like they're going up and to the right, just at a much different pace at the moment. But.
Yeah. Well, here's Bitcoin dominance, and if there's some signal coming in here, guys, like this wick here on this candle. This is a weekly. This weekly candle closes tonight, and if this is a sign of things to come, this is a shooting star candle. Typically, shooting stars mark a trend reversal, so you could actually expect if this is going to hold true to its nature, probably going to roll down on Bitcoin dominance, and then this is going to be a chance for altcoins to kind of make a leg up, because as this chart goes down, altcoin market goes up. When this chart's going up, Bitcoin is just outpacing altcoins. So I'm looking at that like at a minimum, we're going to do something like this, where there was like a bit of a shooting star. This is more of like a inverse hammer, whereas this is like a legit shooting star because the candle body's so small. If it closes here or lower, I mean, this is at a minimum going to go sideways for 1 to 2 to 3 weeks. Let's see, last time it spent 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, basically 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks consolidating. And this was in May. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you look at, all year long since we hit the bottom right, we've been going up and to the right, basically on the whole Bitcoin. But so if I'm a Bitcoiner, what am I thinking right now? I'm thinking, man, I made it through this bear, held onto my bag, or I just discovered Bitcoin. Eureka. And what's my narrative? What do I say? Well, I see all sorts of super positive stuff, like Bitcoin's going to do a 10x from here. We're going to be looking at 300K. That makes perfect sense to me, man, by the way, right? That, that a 10x from here would make sense. We'd be 400, 500K. Hey, it might be even do better. Might do better, man. We might hit 1 million. And so right now, we are beginning to get this euphoric feeling about those numbers. Now, I don't think any of those numbers will be hit, probably. There's like a 5%, 10% chance we'll hit 500K or 1 million this time around, right? Maybe even less. But this is what's needed to attract more people into Bitcoin. Boy, it sounds like a shitcoin, doesn't it? But anyways, I mean, because we would pick on, if we're talking about our own projects and stuff, we'd be like, oh, this is terrible, blah, blah, blah. But this is how it works, right? And so the narrative's got to be there for retail to come in and get hyper bullish, right?
Fiber says there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance?
Of course, there's a chance, right? Of course. Hey, I'm not a TA guy, right? You look to Axis or somebody.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying there's making near zero chance that we're hitting over like 250K. Like, just not.
Well, this is what I'm telling you, that if I had my Bitcoin hat on and I'm out there in the trenches, this is what I'm thinking. Not if I'm like super educated and have already made lots of money in Bitcoin. I'm talking about the people that are looking for their eureka moment, right? And they're going to be spurred on. And in fact, for the market to get to, for people to be able to take profits at 80, 90, 120K, the belief has to be there for the incoming money that they're going to make money to buy your bags, to buy those bags, right? It has to be there. That's what's happened every other cycle. So I think I'm just describing what's happened. I mean, when I first got involved, right, Bitcoin to 100K, never made it. Then second round, 300K, never made it, right? And so why would we think that it's really going to happen this time?
Well, my answer to that question is, it's always a possibility, and especially now with, most of the fears of Bitcoin going to zero is gone, and I think it's effectively being adopted by institutions, and so I mean, there's a chance that some of these like shorter term targets, like 80,000 is one that Sami throws around, or like 120,000 would be a conservative top target if this cycle was going to play out like past Bitcoin cycles prior to this previous one with a double top. I mean, that would be a typical blow off top target. We actually, theoretically, this last cycle should have hit 120 if you base it on past performance. It didn't. It got shot down at 69K on the double top. So where does that put you? It puts you at 120 if you double up on from that level. And I think that's a level to look at, but it would be on a situation more like that double bubble top like we had in the early days. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. First, I wanted to cover this kind of make macro analysis chart. I forget who made this chart. I did not make this chart, but it's a good example of how I'm also seeing the market, which is on the bottom, you see this purple line. That's like the dollar's value versus everything else in the world, specifically against like a basket of 7 or 8 other nation state currencies, such as the euro, the pound, the Japanese yen. So when this thing goes up, you'll notice that these other charts, such as gold, Bitcoin, the stock market, the S&P 500, and the QQQ, these typically go up when this is going down. So that's just a relationship of it. I'll give you an example. If you go back here in the chart, look at gold's going up, Bitcoin goes up, stock market goes up, this stock market goes up. Meanwhile, the dollar is going down. Reverse is also true, that this is called an inverse relationship. Dollar's going up, gold's going down and sideways. Bitcoin tops, goes sideways, and then crashes. S&P just kept going up for a while, but then although I think these time frames are slightly off, so keep that in mind too. Just looking at this here by freehand.
I like all this.
Yeah,
I like all this.
So what am I saying? You know, I'm saying down for the dollar, which would mean, you know, these are all set to go higher. And yeah.
Hey, listen, I got nothing against gold or Bitcoin, you know, or anything else for them. I mean, if they go to $1 million, I'd love it. It'd be good for us. It'd be good for us, right? Right? I mean, one way or another, it's got to be good for us if that much money came into crypto. You know, to drive that kind of action, because the eyeballs would be insane. They'd be off the chart. So maybe this time's different, and maybe there is a -1, not minus, but you know, a 0.01% chance it does something like that. So yeah. No, I'm not hating on it. It's just to try to be realistic on expectations. You know, shoot, last time around, wasn't a bad idea when I was playing with Bitcoin to get out at 28 and take profit.
Well, you know, and that keys on your golden mean indicator that we look at from time to time, and showing, like, you know, possible levels that can be hit, and then basically just DCing out as you get into higher and higher territory, right?
100%, yeah.
And so with this here chart, I mean, what's the takeaway? The takeaway is that, you know, if the dollar is going to head down here for an ABC correction, ABC correction, expect risk to enter the market, and that all of these markets are going to rise in value. And if Bitcoin does well, altcoins will get their day in the sun, including the Richard Hart stuff. I think Richard Hart stuff's uniquely positioned right now. You know, if you had to ask me, well, where are we at in terms of this chart here, the cheat sheet, you know, we're somewhere down here in the coming out of the depression zone and going into the disbelief zone. We're probably halfway through that period where we've bottomed in sentiment, and we've bottomed in price action, and half the market is pleased because they sniped the bottoms and they're up in value, either on E-hex or Pulse, or they caught a run up on an altcoin on Pulse, on a PRC20. You know, there's a lot of people making a ton of money in the RH ecosystem. You're just not seeing that one asset is performing heads and heels above, or that one particular asset's actually keeping up with, like Bitcoin, for example. So yeah, it appears on the surface as though, you know, RH stuff is falling behind. However, when you're talking like ink rewards from the farms over the past 8 months, or you're talking about yields from HEX stakes that have been put in years ago, guys are walking away with thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars in some cases, even at these prices. So I don't know. You have any comments to that?
No, I definitely feel like it's too early to be selling, you know, into the market, but I do recognize there's some people with some awfully big bags that maybe, you know, maybe they're doing 0.5%, that type of thing, you know. But yeah, I definitely think this is what I'm getting at with time in the cycle, right? Like you're showing here on the screen with the psychology. Eventually you get to the end of the psychology, right? And things move. Oh yeah, it's the hardest part about crypto, man, is just waiting around, right? You got to be so damn patient, you know, to, even though people are exiting that have made some good cash, right? Overall for the market, you got to wait until it goes up, and then if you are going to attempt the time and swing, you're going to have to, you know, if you do that, it might be great, might work out great for you. Be prepared to sit on your hands for another 1.5 years, right? I mean, the way I think about it, because probably taking profits, let's say you're able to call that top, right, and then you're able to get out. If your intent is to take profits and buy the bottom, that means you got to retain that capital.
Right.
But,
It's that whole risk reward talk of, you know, how safe do you want to play it? And are you willing to wait, be patient, and play it safe and get positioned in on things that you know are going to perform and hold out? Or are you going to try and play this opportunity cost of, you know, capturing certain areas, selling certain areas, and playing the trading game? It's higher risk, but it is higher reward. There's a lot of opportunity, you know, here on shorter time frames. Definitely not recommended for the faint of heart, and you can lose all your money. So be careful with that. But I think positioning in, DCing in during these periods, it will be looked back on as like, oh, you were the GOAT. You know, you made a lot of strong plays. Hey, I didn't talk about Bitcoin. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead and finish up.
I was thinking we didn't finish off on Bitcoin here. I know Mr. Welloff commented on, you know, how we're talking about 500K all of a sudden. And by the way, I'm not talking about 500K. I don't think Crispy is either, guys. We're just saying that. Like
No, I use that as a sentiment example of narrative that pushes people to buy.
Yes.
I think it's going there.
Perfect. Important to clarify. We're not really talking about, you know, Bitcoin to 500K. I think if anything, we're talking about 80K. Well, where is that? It's right here. Like we're talking about over the next, you know, maybe we tap 50K, we come back down to 30K, and then, you know, we get a double bubble peak, you know, and if you're lucky, we'll hit 120.
Yeah, that's I had a great conversation a few months ago with AI Sami before he became human.
Yeah.
And we were just talking back and forth back channels, and he was getting a lot of flack for his talk about prices, and I came back to him with my thoughts. I was thinking the same thing. You know, if I look at the you know, the golden ratio, things could be different. Everything changes, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But if I look at the golden ratio and the expected diminishing returns, yeah, 80 to 120 is a good range. That's probably what I'd be thinking about. I wouldn't be betting the house that it's going higher than 120. I would keep exposure for sure, but I don't have any Bitcoin anyway. So this is all relative discussion. But.
Yeah, it was one of the things that came up on the cruise was, you know, why is Bitcoin performing so well and altcoins aren't getting that relief rally that we wanted to see? You know, well, we're not even to the halving yet, guys. Halving's still a few months away, so you know, there's time for this cycle is not playing out like last cycle. This was a very interesting last cycle. This wasn't typical, right? So so let me finish this thought on double bubble first. So, you know, if this is going to play out like double bubble, like this cycle here, this is what I envision is a big wave up to 80K, a retracement, I don't know, pick a number, 30, 40K, and then a final blow off top sometime in end of 25 or 2026. That's kind of what I'm seeing as a possibility because it would catch everyone off guard. I don't think it's so simple as we get a nice clean parabolic blow off top. I don't think we're going to get the volatility that we had last cycle where it was this giant W pattern. I don't see that in the chart right now. I'm seeing more of a stable, you know, accumulation of I was about to say accumulation of access coins, accumulation of Bitcoins by institutions, and more supply is getting removed from exchanges. If anything, you know, maybe this comes up and blows off early around halving, and that's front ran, and bam, that's it. That's the cycle. But then it does a fake out, and you get a final blow off top for like a secondary profit taking opportunity around, you know, 120K. Maybe it does something that we can't predict. Maybe we actually get to blow off the top side because if you run just a freehand logarithmic channel on here, let's see what we get. I'm willing to bet that it would surprise everybody, right? So this is kind of just a freehand logarithmic channel here. Let me catch the bottoms quickly. Something like this, where we're going to spend all of our time inside of here, and if this time is different, which is, you know, never been the case, if this time is different, you know, we're going to run into some overhead resistance here around 55,000, 60,000. You know, by April, 65,000. Why? Because of this red line. This red line goes back to the bottom of 2015 here, and then the bottom of the COVID crash in 2020. So this ends up then becoming, resistance here, potentially resistance out here. So like, a pump up there, maybe it wicks through. Maybe you see, imagine this. Imagine, sometime by spring, Bitcoin pumps through here, hits like, 70, 80K all-time high, and then gets smoked. And then you get this sideways accumulation, then the final blow off top. You get, what's this number here? Anywhere between 150 to 200K. That would surprise everyone, and that would put you in end of 2025. This is actually August of 2025 period. So I think Bitcoin's performed tremendously well. I think it could do, it could be a more gradual, parabolic move like 2017. It could be a double bubble where we go overperform into halving, front ran, shot down, and then a secondary blow off, into 25 or early 26. Or you could get an ABC correction, which would trick everybody, and this would go back down, test 25K or so, and then we'd build up for a longer extended cycle into late 2026, which would kind of surprise everybody. This would also give altcoins a chance. Imagine if so much Bitcoin money flowed into altcoins during this period, for example. So there's really three scenarios that I see coming potentially, but all of them end up at 80,000 Bitcoin at some point. All right, guys. So back to the pulse chart. No beard yet, by the way. No beard. So we can't talk about Axis quite yet. Crypto crew guy Steve says 48K to 30K, top 70K. Yeah, he's definitely playing conservative, and the reason why is, so I actually been following Steve Courtney from Crypto Crew U since back in this period here. Two guys come to mind: Steve Courtney and Crypto Sniper that called this crash. And in here he was calling the bottom. So I've been following this guy. He called the bottom here. He called the bottom here, and then the double bottom here. Slightly marginally lower, just like this was a double top, this was a double bottom. Anyway, he's saying that because we've broken this 200-week moving average on Bitcoin to the downside and spent so much time below, and this was a 75% retracement. It was a typical retracement for Bitcoin, but the upside wasn't as good. That this upside would get shot short, right? We'd go to 80K instead of like 120, and that's why I see it being. He's been right so much. I could see that being real, but I could see him missing out like one of these types of situations, or like an ABC correction in the middle of a cycle, like something that's unpredictable, some change up, a shake up, so to say. All right.
A lot of people crying over that.
That's short. Yeah, about Bitcoin not hitting this so high.
Yeah, I mean, at least you still had to have a lot of money, but at least going from 3K to 68K was a reasonable 22x or something like that. Where you're like, this is crypto. Doing people getting in now are going to be like 44K. Yeah, I got a double. I mean, I put my $200 in. I got 400 now. It changes things in a way. That
people love doing 2x's.
I love 2x, man. You give me 2x right now, I'll take it.
Yeah, we had that from the lows
on
PLS. Oh,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so Pulse is in a kind of precarious spot right now. Just looking at it for face value, we caught the bottom of this channel. Wicked below it, pushed back up off those levels. So here was Liquid Loans launch. We got a nice rally. I remember tons of HEX was getting bought at this time. Pulse got bought up. And then the collateralization ratio on Liquid Loans during this period was like 200 to 240%, which isn't enough, I feel. So maybe some smart money came in and pushed the price down to liquidate those guys, to give them better opportunities. And that's just the way this game is being played right now. There's sort of predatory practices, and if you haven't figured that out by now, welcome to the game. That this is a battle for the most coins possible while the bottom's still being put in. and I don't mean that that will go retrace below here. I don't really see that. Just drawing like a fractal. If this is anything like before, let's just pick a number. Let's pick that maybe.
10.
Yeah, pick a number, any number. Somewhere in here, somewhere in here. Let's just say if this is going to play out similarly, we have time, guys. Like the highs may be in on pulse for the end of the year, and then going into next year, we break out of this white downtrend, and then retest that level, and then we go build up for a bigger move going into February. This is kind of what some of the smarter folks that I've followed in the pulse chain space, in the HEX space for a while, they've been talking about Q1 of 2024 being a seminal moment for the system, and that we'd start seeing higher prices. People that had called the top on HEX, and so yeah, I could definitely see that. Obviously, a lot of the hype for altcoins is next year. We don't have enough time this year to make it all happen. We got 20 days left in the month, so some sideways action here is to be expected.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Well, I'd love to see this thing go up in price and tap this white line one more time. That would be awesome. But I just don't see it. There's like loss harvesting at the end of the year and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's got to happen, right? But,
maybe something like this. So patience on pulse.
Yeah, and surely this is. Maybe if you're some sci-fi freak, you can come up with a calculation that calculates all this out. But to some extent, it is kind of mathish in that we need time to go by for people to get out. I mean, and, the ones that get out or put money on the side, right, they don't have something to sell. They don't drive the prices down, and then they go up. I mean, it's the kind of that whole time function of markets, right?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, looking at the chain a little closer, there's probably more accumulation happening, and there's these fundamentally there's these accounts on Twitter that keep popping up that are like good at chart analysis that keep random people I've never even heard of talking about. Oh, yeah, Pulse is a good buy here, or Hex is like a super good buy there. Like people that like. Some of these guys really like Fibonacci analysis. Some of these guys like other kinds of analysis. And they're all coming to the same conclusion that these coins are screaming buys and that they're undervalued. So the market is starting to wake up to these ideas, for sure.
I think I have I think I've got 3 times as much HEX as I did in 21 now.
Mm-hmm. I can say that. I'm assuming that maybe you were forward looking and you saw that hex mining might be good. Oh,
I got a fork, but then the second part that only counts for some of it. And what you were saying is the rest.
Well, some of these stakes that were put in years ago are doubling your stack, right?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think mining ladders in general, over a 15-year period. Depending on how you set it up, they're probably about 25% APY over the entire ladder per year, and rising year over year. So it's pretty insane because the mining gives you that much HEX. And I know it's not super popular, but in the HEX ecosystem, right? It's not super popular with traders, I should say. But in the HEX ecosystem, one of the ways to beat the the volatility in prices by just having more tokens, right?
Interesting comment here from Alan. He says that the 9mm Pro V3. Let's see.
Yeah, I heard people talking about using it so far. I haven't gotten over there using it.
V3 dot. I think this is it. He's saying that the E-hex P-hex LP has been amazing. Let's see.
Amazing.
I gotta see it for myself.
Well, at the very least, right, you get to pick your prices. Right? Is that what the deal is?
Right, you can set a range. So if you think that they should be at parity, you could set your LP in a range. Why is it not pools? Sorry. Add liquidity. HEX. HEX. Okay, so
Nice.
I wonder how much is in here. I haven't looked at this in a minute. Minimum price 0.4, maximum price 1. Let me invert it.
Hex of a hex, not dollar.
So there are people putting liquidity at 1 to 1 all the way up to 2.5 to 1, as far as 3 to 1. This kind of shows you where the market, well, at least these liquidity providers are thinking. They're putting it somewhere between 2 and 1.1, which is basically the range. So on this lower bounds, closer to 1.1, and then the higher bounds 2.1. If we go look at the hex chart,
isn't it 175 right now or 75?
I'm about to pull it up. Invert pair, switch to E-hex. So right now it's at 1.71, and you could see the my lower bounds here, my yellow dashed line, and then this overhead. This is where it's at on the thing, 2.13. Okay, so these are your ranges inside of this V3 LP. Pretty cool. And it seems like there's a cohort of people that think P-hex can go as high as 3 to 1, because there's all this liquidity out here. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah, and that also offers the opportunity for people to do the outliers, right? And be like, hey, I think it's going to go 10 to 1, and be the only one with the LP out there, not financial advice to go do that. What's super interesting about the range, right? So from a make fees perspective, right, this could be very lucrative, and I think that's what he was getting after, Alan, is the idea that if you could set a range like that, it stays in that range. It doesn't matter what the fiat price is.
So if I was going to provide, I'm a whale in E-hex and P-hex, I was going to provide $100,000 of liquidity inside of this range. What kind of ROIs could I expect? See, did you see
kind
an
of
ROI?
ROIs? What kind of ROI could you expect?
Well, it's saying 0, so I must not make any money.
Yep, that's probably right.
Yeah, I wonder, this is kind of cool to have this ROI calculator. I'm going to dig deeper into this, you guys, and probably start tweeting a little bit about it. But, yeah, I'm curious to see, if the price is playing around inside of a range like that, what you could get for fees. It'd be an easy, if this is anywhere above 10%, then you'd actually make more hex, regardless of the one, bouncing around in this range than you would staking hex for less than a year. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Yeah, we'll definitely come back to that. Thanks, Alan, for the suggestion. Before I go further on the hex, I want to backtrack and finish up on pulse-x pulse ratio. So this chart here is actually played out beautifully in terms of from a technical perspective. I want to teach you guys a couple things. There are those of us that are amongst us in the chat that already know enough about these tools, but for those that don't, I got some data points on here. On the left side of the screen, you can see these blue and yellow bars that represents where the most volume was traded, and this horizontal red line here that represents the apex amount of volume that was traded at a certain price. So the all-time average price over volume, like time weighted, is around 3 to 1. So, or I'm sorry, 0.3 pulse per 1 pulse x, so which is 3 to 1, right? And that makes sense because 3 times as many people got into the pulse x sacrifices that got into the pulse sacrifice. As something that we all theorized before pulse chain ever launched, that because of that there would be an imbalance and a need for people to swap pulse x into other things to try to recapture hex that was sacrificed or recapture pulse that they never got into that sacrifice phase. So pulse x actually it's getting smoked right now in pulse terms. It broke out of its parabola here, and ever since then it has not been able to recover its pulse valuation, and it's now down closer to 4 to 1 down here, which is the lows that were set in here back in October. So this is like a pretty good area if you're interested in pulse x to start to accumulate. Usually these big red candles like this, bearish engulfings on a ratio like this, are typically, I mean, normally in a normal chart they're a reversal candle, but in this case I would consider it more of a capitulation candle. And any further downside on this particular ratio, I would think is a good buy opportunity. And you may see this chart just kind of like round out, base out, and you'll get some good DCA opportunities somewhere around that 4-to-1. Going beyond that amount, I think, is a little irrational, and those would be good opportunities. So with this VPVR volume profile, you could see how much time we spent here trading in that range with a bulk of the volume. We got above it for a second, but we were unable to flip that level of support, and then that became hard resistance, and there was a hard rejection, and you broke the parabola all around the same time frame. So that has signaled that this thing was going to go lower. If you pull up the MACD, there the bearish cross occurred right here. So if you're following the daily MACD for something like this, you can look for these crosses. And when these crosses occur, that's typically foreshadowing further downside. And if you would have just sold on that cross, it would have been an automatic. You would automatically been winning. You just, every time you get the cross, you got another one here, you got another one here. These are typically signals that the market's going to go lower. So keep an eye on that MACD. This is the Pulse X Pulse ratio. This is not the USD valuation. This is Pulse X valued in Pulse terms. I made a tweet on, when was the date for this?
Tweet.
November 21st. So like, 20-ish days ago. And I took the ink chart and I flipped it upside down, and I put it in a parabola because like the ink was basically dropping in price. It had lost this key level of support, and so I basically said, well, the next level is 55 cents. Actually, I went to 55.55 cents is the next target level. And if it breaks that level, it could go to 10 cents. So ink, if it fails to recover from these levels, it could go as low as 10 cents per ink. And that makes sense because the market doesn't seem to value ink. It's kind of the free coin that you use to get all the other coins. And that'll continue until the price gets so ridiculously cheap that one whale can spend like 6 figures to buy up 80% of the supply, I think is kind of how I'm thinking about it now, just because of how bearish this chart has been. And I wanted to call out the gopulse.com guys. Great website, free tools, some of the best tools on Pulse Chain. But they said TA is overrated, so I thought I'd come back and remind them that the TA right now is saying that I'm right and that we broke that 55 cent level, retesting, and it's about to continue down because remember this chart is inverted. So over time, if this continues to hold trend and we don't break this parabola, I mean, we're headed to 10 cents per ink. So you've been forewarned way in advance. I'd like to see that not happen because this is ink is effectively a negative externality on the ecosystem as far as I'm concerned, up to the point of people bridging funds out. If they're using ink to pay for their bills in the real world, and this is just a forever dump token, and they're pulling money off the bridge and sending it back over, this is just a negative externality. It's like a leaking hole on a bucket. Every time money comes in, then ink is being minted out of thin air, and it's just people aren't valuing it, so it's like a leaky hole, and until it's not, right? Someone at some point along this trajectory is going to slap the duct tape on the bucket, and hopefully we'll get a reversal. But for now, I'd like to see people use ink to continue to pump other coins in the ecosystem to keep value inside Pulse Chain. If you're using ink to swap into Pulse, PulseX, HEX, Axis token, whatever you're using it to buy, HOA, liquid loans, Mintra, we're looking at some of these coins, Communists, in a little bit here. That to me is a net benefit to the ecosystem because it keeps value trapped in the Pulse Chain, and then that can grow over time. But when it's turned into stable coins and bridged back across, it actually negatively impacts the system. Alan says, Axis about to dilute my ROI with a single tweet on the 9mm V3 pools. That's funny. Alan says, I wish people told me this stuff when I got into HEX. Archie, got to share what we know. It's the truth with the fam. Thicker LP is good, so people are encouraged to play around on P-hex and E-hex. Most definitely. Alrighty. So let's move on to the hexes. So this is E-hex measured in Ethereum log. It's basically, this isn't good. It retraced the entire move. So Ethereum's been continued to overperform for some time. And because E-hex hasn't gotten any legs recently, it's came back down and retested these lows. So 5 zeros and a 178 roughly is where we're going to try and bounce off of. Hard to say right now from this point where this thing could bottom, because this is just it's reminding me a lot of these days here. I think that this could happen again? I don't know. This is what it's reminding me of. Could E-hex go down an additional 93%? I don't know. I really don't know. It doesn't look good right now, I'm going to be honest. But I believe in the long-term value of E-hex and P-hex, and I think any kind of discount lower is a market mispricing it. So, but I'm just one guy, so that's just my thoughts. This is the level to get back above and hold, which was support for us back in March of 21, where we bounced off. That was around the big payday pump, and then the retracement, and then the 2-cent top, and then a triple bottom, a breakout. And this is also kind of like these days here, where you get that like sharp correction, the breakup and the sharp correction. So, all it's going to take is somebody to see the value, and then perhaps we're going to start to see higher prices in the short term. I'm looking at early 2024 by April for big moves. This here move happened in March and April of 2024. Or I'm sorry, of 2021. P-hex valued in USD came back down and tested the lower bounds of this pennant. So pennant patterns typically they consolidate in a sideways pattern before breaking one direction or the other. Because pennants are neutral patterns, you don't know necessarily which way they're going to break, but you can look to user behavior to try to predict like what'll happen. If you're seeing accumulation, or if you're seeing lots of support on this bottom trend line, and a continuous higher highs, that's what we want to see. Let's see what we got on the MACD. Yeah, MACD is kind of starting to round out. So the MACD is starting to round out at the same time as the price is hitting the bottom trend line. Support. Hanging on for dear life. We want to see a big move here to make a local high come up here in the relatively not too distant future. That's what we want to see. And then valued in pulse, it's at the bottom of the range. This range has held this support on multiple occasions. Currently, it looks like it's trying to break below. So we wicked below, recovered. The MACD here, it's threatening a cross down, which would mean for a short period we could underperform this range, and then someone may step in to capture the supply at those levels. The amount of HEX on the market right now is actually down from where it was 2 months ago or 3 months ago. there was like close to 1 billion. Now there's only like 700 and some million. Like it's in the mid to low 700 million. So like basically a 25% of all P-hex has now been taken out of the pools and it's off the market. And that's something that's reflected on hexfire.io. And I'd like if maybe Crispy, you could just talk a little bit about the supply data here. I'll pull it up.
Woo. So which aspect you want to go after?
I'll
kind of
just
like in general.
I'll just tell you my observations and then you can take it from there. My observations is that less and less pulses in the pools, less and less E-hexes in the pools, and less P-hexes in the pools. And then you can kind of
Yes.
take it wherever.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, as we know, right, the more limited that is and what's available actually in the pools itself, it creates more volatility, right, in price when somebody does decide to come in and buy, right? Now, at the same time, while price can go up, it does hurt the ability for somebody to actually accumulate, right? Because if the hex isn't there, it's not there. But perhaps if prices are going up, it entices others to sell. So there's definitely a give and take as that goes along. In terms of the whole, in terms of the whole pulse hex or the E-hex, relatively not, not exactly, but relatively similar amounts of hex are out there in the circulating supply. I think when we look at we look at pulse chain, the most significant difference is, of course, we have like quite a bit of hex that's actually out there being on the market for sale, right? Versus what we see on the Ethereum side. So there is that, but in general, we're running about 26 billion, what we call the adjusted circulating supply of hex. And that's after extracting the OA held hex that's out there. And so when we nail that down, you go even further with it, you look at what's actually been active or inactive, it really brings us down to right around the 20 billion level on both chains. So when you look at that in comparison to what's out there, what's 1 billion of 20, right? It's not very much, right? And certainly 200 million of 20 billion is not very much either. And so this is some of the stuff people hint at. I don't know what people are going to do, but like Johnny Chaos says, right, when we start talking about E-hex, if somebody got it in their head that they wanted to come in and pump the price, and the community supported pumping the price, it can go to extreme heights and affect the entire system. In that, through the funnel of E-hex, right? You see some dynamics of that playing out on the pulse chain, and then on the pulse chain, same thing with hex. There, hex could, it could be pumped up through the purchase and the accumulation of more hex, again, provided the community doesn't sell it down. But there's a little bit harder on the pulse chain, right? Because all that LP is so tied together.
Do you see potential for, based on what you're seeing in like the mining data, are you seeing that more and more hex is being locked up or accumulated, and that in the event that the price does rise rapidly, that there would become maybe a shortage of supply to sell anyhow? And if the right strategy was employed, this is kind of what I was thinking, was if the right strategy is employed, the bit that's left to sell just will be short-lived.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we said, there's only so much out there that's possible. And I think number-wise, yes, I could look on the screen here or check it, but it's only a couple 100 million of the E-hex, right? It's actually on the market. Now, in the background, we do have two things happening, though. We do have circulating supply going up on both chains, right? So circulating supply is going up. And so in general, there's more available for people. We haven't seen any, unless I missed it maybe, but we haven't seen any whales come in and decide they were going to do something different with 1 billion hex than they've been doing, right? So we haven't seen that. in recent days. That's what I'm getting at. And then, so yeah, we have that happening. But then on the Ethereum side as well, right, because the gas fees are so high, we're not getting as much mining taking place on the Ethereum side. Makes sense that would be the case. So you do see some, appreciation in terms of circulating hex out there showing up. But on the pulse chain side, we've got a tremendous amount of short staking. That's locking some of that hex up short term. In any case, all of that kind of gives you the what if. Hey, there's hex out there for people to put on the market if they want to sell it, for sure. But there's not very much to buy.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So people are holding it in their wallets, but they're not putting it on the market at risk. So there's obviously, the market values it. So
yeah, because I mean, I don't know about anybody else listening to this, but if you've been mining and you get your hex out, so it's not the miners anyways. Typically, they're selling the price down. It's the speculators who want to swing trade, right? And now we're cycle trading, but they're the ones. But even they don't want to sell it right now, right? Because everyone's perceiving, hey, listen, if you're buying into the $1 million Ethereum narrative and the $40,000 ETH narrative, of course you're going to be falling into the rest of it with the rest of the tokens and systems. Everybody's exuberant in believing that we're going to have these very, very high prices, and how it's actually showing up is in the holders for hex. When we're looking at hex, anyways, when you look at the holder numbers for hex, both chains, the number of holders of hex is going up during this period, which is typically what what people are trying.
Here's the ETH side going up, a few thousand. Here's the pulse side, up a bunch.
Yeah.
Probably up 6,000 or so since September.
Just going. Yeah, and of course that's count of addresses and all that stuff. So you get, it's not exact, but it is a way to kind of track what's happening. And this is what you would expect during this period, is that type of accumulation, right? And then, in fact, what we see is as the green bars come, as we see more green candles, that will explode, right?
Correct.
And you'll have even more holders holding, until we get to, the blow off top of whatever that looks like, whether it's mute or not, but some sort of blow off top, and then you'll see the reverse happen as they become disillusioned and price goes down.
So here's the Ethereum side. Now notice how the amount of USDC hex on Ethereum and Ethereum is all on a downtrend. So there's just less and less of everything available, and this is typical of accumulation periods before the bull market just goes parabolic, because everything's getting hoarded. Less and less people want to put their coins on the market because they know that they can get better prices for them if you just go ahead 6 to 12 months into the future. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to sell here. Better to hoard your coins and let the market go up in price, get the markup, and then put them on the market at a later date.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look, I'm peeking right now because I hadn't looked while we were talking, but there's 40 ETH on up for LP, on Ethereum side. I mean, I that's nothing. That's nothing.
Luther says that the gas prices is ETH's business model, and the fees will never come down. Without the fees, ETH stops expanding and becomes less relevant every day. Because you can copy ETH. Well, we have example of that Pulse chain. You can open a new store down the street and reduce ETH's load to try to bring down fees on its own right. But yeah, the biggest market makers in ETH want high fees to price out new projects. Vitalik deliberately raised the fees on hex stakes by increasing the cost of the S load function. So we've seen those types of actions before where someone has an opinion and they affect the network in a certain way, and so now I've heard that rumor too that the big funds they want high gas fees on ETH for one reason or another. If it costs more to transact, you got to buy more ETH to do what you want to do, and if they can perpetually keep that going, it keeps them as the number one game in town until it doesn't. What changes that is when we as a society decide, oh, we're not falling for the Bitcoin and ETH or the God blue chip coin anymore narrative, and people start choosing technology over narrative. Like that, when that happens is when we'll see the biggest price rises on stuff, and we could actually get true adoption of DeFi. People actually learning how to use wallets, learning how to use contracts. Imagine a world where everyone learned to write a little bit of code. I know it's a reach, but that's kind of the world that is 100 years down the road. What we could expect. Everyone's going to have to get more adept in these technologies to use them, right? And go totally, technologically decentralized, right? All right. So, I don't know where Mark is, but I'm gonna, we got 140 watching. We had up to 160. I should have ran it before, but hey, we're gonna run this video that Mark put together, and I'm gonna go dive into the Axis stuff for a little bit, and then we'll close out the stream today with some Mintra, Upex, liquid loans, communists, and Hedron and Icosa, as well as internet money with Time and Pius and HOA. So the HOA boys, if you're out there, bring them in here because that's coming up toward the end. All right. So without further ado, I hope everyone enjoys this. What's been put together by Markable. It's a labor of love. It went through many iterations. I've originally sent him off a draft to I was like, hey, you gotta do this thing for me. We need more marketing materials. And I had a very specific outline for how I wanted it to be done, and it didn't get done like that way at all. It changed drastically since then, but the end product is so much better for it. So he actually just viewed my Telegram message, so I'll just wait another minute for him to join. Hopefully he joins while I'm talking here. But because it's been really cool. Actually, since he's not here quite yet, I'll just pull up the chart, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on Axis. Massive pumpage going on. So here's the Axis chart on the 12-hour. Talk about a volatile chart, right? So if you go back to the beginning, I mean, this coin is officially, I haven't seen another chart that has done quite the percentage returns that this one has done. Since the beginning to the peak, it's done 167 billion with a B percent against the dollar, and against PLS, it's done like over 300 billion percent returns. How is that possible? That's possible if you set your ratios right when you launch a token. It's something that I want to give the world, is the understanding of how to launch a successful token, and to make sure that your ratios are properly set so you can get the best looking chart, because if we all have good looking charts, and I think that's probably better for the ecosystem as a whole. So we don't end up like having this liquid loans chart where it's down 99.999% on the launch day. But yeah, so the Axis chart has been tremendously successful experiment. There's so much that has been learned and gained from it. And here it is on log again. So, the first, 60 days was just up and to the right. And then sometime in mid-September, hold on, Mark, I'll bring you on in a second. Sometime in September, the price just rocketed up from about $300 a coin all the way to $10,000 a coin in just a few days. And that was on the back of a HEX dolphin and a HEX shark jumping into the chart and making their mark and absorbing some of that supply. And it was pretty illiquid at the time, so it didn't take so much economic energy to pump it up there. That ended up resulting in an 89% drop in price. 89.85%. So the max downside the Axis chart's ever seen was minus 89.85%. And from there, somebody came in, a group of guys came in and marked the price up 94% in just a few hours, which started this ascending triangle pattern. And from that period, that bullish pattern ended up playing out. Technically, it broke out, did a small consolidation between 3,000 and 4,000, and then one of the biggest whales in Pulse Chain actually pumped the price up to like 6,000 to 7,000. And ever since then, it's been a wild ride of volatility. People pushed the price all the way up to 12,000, and then it came back down to 5,000, then it was back up to 13,000, then it crashed to $1,500. One of the guys that got in early back here around $1 to $10 came in here and did a 10 coin market sell and walked away with like a $70,000 profit overall. I think this particular sell was like for 24,000. So he did very, very well for himself. Congratulations to him. But the market responded with an instantaneous almost 382% price pump off that floor, which told me as an observer of the market that the market demand was there for this coin and people were just waiting for better prices. So ever since then, the prices kind of, curved over and sold back down. And along the way, people have stepped in and made like, $2,000, $4,000, $10,000 market buys and accumulated this coin all the way back down to the base, so that you ended up with this this double bottom here. You had the bottom number 1 on the 786 on the Fib retracement, and then it didn't even hit there quite the second time. Higher low, double bottom, and a reversal. And now it looks like the price is actually targeting the upper trend here is around $6,000. So we'll see how that plays out. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome on Proof of Beards Only.
Proof of the beard.
What's up?
Good to see you.
What's up,
Good to
guys?
see you.
Dude, I never realized that I was invited for the stream.
Oh,
It was
well,
funny.
that was definitely, I thought, appropriate that you were here to unveil your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight, yeah, of course, it makes sense. But I was just working on a different video, I guess, and I was just, busy. But thanks for the invite.
You betcha. Someone said here, Fire token is pumping too alongside of it. Yeah, that's because they're binded by Hart's Law, right? So
And from streams.
yeah.
if one of these coins, moves up in price because their thickest pair is with each other, then Fire token also performs similarly. And you can see here the shape of the chart is actually very similar. So,
Yeah,
4 days straight of green.
Lessons to be learned in that, guys.
Is
All right,
that
when you're looking at any asset, and you got to ask why, and you have to go look. Got to go look.
I have a question about this. When you see something like this, obviously you guys also have kind of the same audiences, so I guess that's also kind of related. But I'm just wondering, whenever you see, what we're seeing here, the correlation, can you see that back in the order book? As in, if there's only buys on the Axis token, and Fire also goes up, is there a way you can actually track, oh, this is purely has to do with how it's paired? Because there's no real buys, I guess, on the other side, maybe, but it still gets pulled up, or how do you track that?
So let me go first, and then Axis can give you the real skinny on it, right? When those tokens came out, one of the things I had done right in the beginning was I just laid in thick liquidity between the two. Well, relatively thick, right? And so you have Hart's Law going on, to that extent, that things are priced in other things that are there. And that's kind of my reference, that they're connected to. That's my reference to why you should look. Like when we're looking at a whole, I'm not going to pick on anybody, but you look at a whole group of tokens are all going up and everybody's like, yeah, this is great. It's likely their liquidity's tied pretty tightly together in some way. And so there's some of that going on. And then the other thing is the bot army is real. And so there is ARB going on, and there are people that are running bots, and they might be ARBing just for a few pennies. And because that exists, right, it kind of breathes life into all of these tokens that are out there. Because even with comparing Axis to Fire doesn't move quite at all, in comparison, right?
That's actually interesting that you just said that. Let's see.
The numbers move. But
yeah,
when we
so
look
it
at
moves
volume,
not quite as so from the low to the high on Axis, 140% here on this local move, but the Fire move was 100%. So what's happening here is actually it's not just bots. Actually, what's happening is if you look at the order book here, you can see that if you dug into these wallets, some of these buys that are coming through, like look here, 1 million PLS buy of Fire. This might be a guy buying Axis, but the route part of his bag, maybe a percentage of a point or like 1% of the buy, gets routed through fire, so that it goes pulse to fire to axis. So they go through fire to buy. So they're buying fire, which pushes the fire price up, and then it buys axis, which pushes axis up.
But they sell it, right?
What's that?
Well,
technically they're selling fire for axis, yes.
So then how does that cancels each other out?
No, it doesn't. So, but it does result in that this doesn't get as big of a pump. So instead of this being 140% move, where'd the 40% go? Well, that went because the 40% went into axis, right?
Yeah, and if you think of some of these other token systems people put together, and they have 3, 4, 5, 10 assets or whatnot, you're seeing exactly the same types of activities, right? And this is probably way too detailed for this stream, but these are the types of things that we started. Yeah, we started learning, right? And that's why we talk about this being kind of educational. So, okay, so what happens, and this is, some people already know this or are watching, right? But I mean, so what happens if you set up a token and the only way you can get it is through Pulse, right? But then you set up another token, right? And the only way you can get it is by the first token, and so on and so forth, right? You start creating, it's kind of like a fish trap in a way. You start creating these liquidity traps where you can actually direct the outflow of the pulse to whatever trap you want it to go into. Very, very complicated explanation. I'm sorry, but we can see this in some of these tokens that have been launched, right?
I must say that the tokens that you guys have launched is like one of the best places to, like, when it's on the video where it says the best educational tool on Pulse Chain, it's not just words. Like this is such a clean project to track and to look at. Like the way I learn about liquidity and order books and all that stuff is pretty much with the Axis token, because because it's such a clean sample of people and buys and stuff, and because it's also still small and manageable to look at stuff. It's pretty cool to know. Yeah.
Well, it brings some reality to the situation when you're trying to do stuff and you're trying to manage it. Like, I have a whole different appreciation for people who've actually founded tokens and systems. It's why I'm not so hard on some of the stuff that happens, like with the liquidity on liquid loans and whatnot, because I recognize there's a lot going on behind the scenes to make this all work. And their tokens work. It's So I'm right there with you. I've learned more in the last 6 months than previously on this whole LP thing. That's for sure.
I think people you guys that are sitting here listening to this, you're gonna get the scoop on a lot of the stuff that you only learn this information by creating a token and playing the game. Like, and what better game to play than to participate in one where we're all speaking to this, creating tokens and putting our own skin on the line. Like, the amount of investment that's been made to have this experiment play out is tremendous. There's currently $176,000 liquidity on this pair, just on the Axis Pulse pair. And, that's not it, man. There's a lot of history in this chart, and a lot of things have occurred. And it's been an interesting road of human emotions and people riding up thousands of X's and gains made and liquidity lost. But this has all led to a pure market, pure chart, and being able to combine the technical analysis, the chain analysis, and the liquidity providing from day one has been insurmountable in the amount of education that we've gotten from it. And so with that, I'm going to launch the axisALiVE token promo video.
Oh, you haven't done that yet?
Enjoy. Good job, Mark.
Thanks. I'm waiting
Fantastic.
for you to show.
Fantastic work, Mark. Yeah, it's really good. Very exciting.
I was telling these guys before you joined that the slides that I had sent you as a rough draft and the end result and the end product were so much different, but the core message was in there, but they were so much different, and that the end result was so much better after iteration of it.
It's always like that, but I really appreciate the storyboard you gave a good direction. You should show that as well, and then show the video next to it.
Well, some things stay behind the tape.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we don't want to give away all our secrets. So, yeah, I mean, Mark is the man for Pulse Chain and Hex animations and marketing materials, and I hope this is the beginning of a really long-term professional relationship between us, and you can expect this level of quality and beyond from Mark. If you ever want to decide to hire him or look to him, please message him. I don't know where you're best easily reached, but it definitely it's the quality of the work speaks for itself, and I've been happy to work with you.
Yeah, likewise, man, for sure. Twitter is, by the way, proof of beard, so just go there, I guess. I've been actually discovering a new, like with your video, and I'm reaching out to some projects now. I would really like, because until now I've only done like streamer intro videos, but I see there could also be a lot of value in promoting projects like I did with this coin, but also like protocols and teaching people how stuff works through animation, or like show kind of flashy promo videos. So yeah, I'm starting to do that as well now. It's a lot of fun, man. This is the best place to work, this community.
You also made this. I'm going to pull us down for a second. You made this backdrop, which I really enjoy as well. Hold on one sec. I think that's just tremendous. I like, and that was just stuff you did, on your own time.
It didn't show. Did it show for you, Crispy?
No.
Well, I thought it was just
blank screen.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on. Wonder if how do I pull that?
Oh, now there is one. Yeah.
Interesting. So it didn't have it before, huh? Hold on one
No,
second.
there's nothing. It was just
Can you
black
see it
screen.
right now behind us?
Yes.
Oh, weird. But yeah, I really like that. I thought that was
It's really solid, man. And
solid branding.
as a waiting screen image, that's just amazing. And then, well, I'm an animator, so I animated as well. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, we use that on the intros for the privates and for here. Yeah,
You have to watch it, because at some point you're just gonna play videos and never be able to stream because you have so many.
Actually, when Crispy comes on, we play same as when Crypto Sloth used to come on. We play his intro as well. Yeah, pretty awesome.
I really love that. It gives me so much joy that I watch so many streamers in this community, and then so many of them have my videos on there.
It's remarkable everywhere. He's everywhere.
It's
So
just
in
I
honor-
don't. Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I don't really stream a lot anymore. I used to, but now I'm still on everyone's stream, so that's.
I mean, this is you're reserved for special Crispy and Axis streams pretty much anymore. So I mean, you're part of the team, so you don't really get a choice. You kind of have to come on with us. But if anyone else wants you, it's going to be we'll send you the bill.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so with let me run it back one more time where people are starting to pile in. Let's do it one more time. All right.
Sure.
Sick. And it's
Again.
pumping at the same time. How's that?
Yeah, that's the perfect timing, man. I can remember when we started making it, it was like, okay, it needs to have the right timing, as in when it launches. So then it bumps the token, and now, well, here we are.
It's funny how it's kind of funny like that. We had pretty good luck with Axis when we were getting listed on Pulse Coin List and Pulse Hot List. Some of my favorite market cap sites that are just specifically for Pulse Chain. Pretty awesome sites. Here on let me give you guys a little rundown of these quick. So if you go to Pulse Hot List, I don't know if people may feel one way or the other about them. This little video section here, that's going to have that promo video in it, not too distant future. This is where I got the idea, was that these guys reached out to me and said, hey, do you have a video? And I said, no. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to get a video now. So that's when I messaged Mark. But yeah, if you buy this Pulse Hot List token, when you buy this Pulse Hot List token, I think it's like $1.30, $1.40, and you burn it for your coin, like you can actually get in the top projects by community loyalty score. So if you notice here, like, somebody went and burned some Pulse Hot Lists, put Axis in the top 3 for
cool.
community loyalty score. So go give those guys a shout. Maybe burn some PHL for your favorite token and support your team. You can also buy, sell, or add liquidity and see a lot of the good data right here, buys versus sells, and links to the stuff. And then the other one I like is Pulse Coin List as well. That's a pretty sweet little site. They show you like the trending coins. Right now, top gainer on the day is axisALiVE token, perfectly on cue. Totally accidental, by the way. I didn't know that was going to be the case. When things are going down, Axis usually goes up, so that's just a trend. But yeah, this is a pretty cool website. They basically filter out coins. One of their metrics is like how deep the liquidity is, what's the 24-hour volume, and then what's the different gains over different time frames. And whatever their algorithm is, it'll filter out and then give you top gainers, top losers. So pretty cool little site here. They also have like an apps page somewhere in here, ecosystem, I think, where you can see a lot of the top projects. And to get your coin listed on here, or your project listed, doesn't have to have a coin necessarily. Just at the bottom of the screen here, I think there's a messaging and link or something, contact form here at the bottom on the site. So couple sites. So the point to that was that when Axis first made its original date breakouts here, back when we were playing around with like the $1,000 to $2,000 levels, this is when we started to get listed different places. So listings do matter, and that's why that Pulse Chain Foundation that Marlon's putting together, aka Bar Chef on Twitter, is so important for pushing Pulse and Hex forward and getting us like the notoriety and the prestige that we deserve, being true DeFi assets. Do you mind explaining the difference between Axis token and Fire token? Well, they're two totally separate contract addresses, so they have different supplies, different tickers, and different names. Beyond that, they're just basic immutable code, can't be changed ever, fixed supply, no extra fancy tokenomics or anything. I think there's, how many Fire exists total?
369 billion and change. Yeah, in terms of that, you may remember Funding Jim made a bunch of tokens, and so when he made those tokens, I made the Fire token, and then Axis has the Axis token, because I wanted to go learn too. I thought it was a great initiative that he had promoted this idea of, and we kind of took that a little bit further with the learning that comes with that.
And the Axis token actually there's only between 300 and 400 coins in the market supply. And so if you want to know specific market supply, that's all transparent. It's on the website under Axis token, axisalive.com/market supply chain analysis. To get there, just navigate to the Axis token tab, and there'll be a drop down. That'll bring you to this dashboard that Crispy Man put together. And inside of here, you can see the total supply circulating in the market supply, the holder count, how much is bridged to Ethereum, the market cap of the user supply, as well as if you click down on these bottom buttons, you can go through and see what's the core supply, which is like an OA type address, and what is the liquidity setup looking like, how much of the liquidity is on different pairs. As you can see, when the time of this snapshot was taken, most of the liquidity was either Axis Pulse or Axis Fire, which lends to why Hart's Law was so strong between these coins. over the past 4 or 5 months since they launched. All right. Enough of the Axis talk. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm pretty bullish on it right now. I'm going to drop that video on Twitter later today. We talked HEX, we talked Pulse, PulseX, Inc. Let's talk a little bit about some other shitcoins. How about that?
Woohoo!
The Up and the Upex tokens, they know they were hot for a while, and they went up. Like Upex went up 6 to 8x off its SAC rate, and right now it looks like the stochastic RSI on the daily is about to try to make a cross up, meaning that further bullish momentum actually can come into the chart here. RSI is testing the this downtrend resistance line. So what I'd like to see is a break above, but typically with a wick that big, you can see the wick on there, it should get rejected from a technicals angle, but I know that there's other tokenomics in here that there's like extra ammo to buy and burn this token in key moments like these. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this come up, either make a lower high or marginally higher high, roll over into this downwards pressure. So what that would look like is this would go up and then come right back down on the momentum. The MACD is starting to slow down from the downside. I expect it to be a few more days, 3 to 7 days before it kind of bases out. But if you get this breakdown further, it could actually spells further downside for on the MACD, which would mean it's a longer recovery period. It already performed so tremendously well. I don't think the contracts are live yet. So I would say, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, that Upex is probably destined for further downside in the short term.
This was also in the lead up for LL, right? For liquid
Correct.
loans.
Yeah, so that hype leading into liquid loans, buy the rumor, sell the news.
Well, that being said, though, I mean, that's looking at the token itself and what you're seeing on the charts. I don't know the current status, but once the contracts are in place for those two, we should start seeing some different activities take place, right? Burning of Upex, that type of thing. So perhaps, we'll start seeing that on the charts.
Yes, most definitely. Keep your eyes peeled. Like I said before, it's normal for this, and it's healthy for this thing to come down 73% from here. Like, that's just a healthy retrace. There's nothing wrong with that. Hansi Crypto, he'll go on and on about how, retracements down to the 0.5 or the 618 is totally normal and healthy, especially after such a parabolic move, right? It broke the parabola. It remains to be seen. Another coin that's been interesting is Mintra. Whale came in and pumped about $500,000 of liquidity into this coin, and it moved it over 10x in an instant. We've seen that before on the Axis chart before, but now this is another coin that's seen a similar benefit. And from there, it was sold off immediately. If I switch to an hourly, it just look at that candle, a massive candle to re-race all this price action. This coin here is deflationary. I can't remember the amount of total supply off the top of my head. If you're out there, 720, message me. Let's see if I can read quickly while I'm going through. 150, no, that's not it. 2.3 billion total supply. And there's only 35 million on the market. So it's deflationary, less and less Mintra. I don't know if there's any further tokenomics, but solid team, awesome dev in HEX Live. Everyone's doxed, and if the NFT narrative picks up at all this cycle, then Mintra should have some success, and this is the first signal of that success. So, if any retracement here comes back down, maybe to my red line here on 3 zeros and a 1, I would be looking to maybe position myself there before the next move higher. Again, it's deflationary, so you'd want to look into the actual tokenomics, the supply. Only 2,900 holders, and it looks like 40, 50, 60, 70% of the supply is in 2 wallets, one wallet, one contract. And the biggest holder outside of those two wallets has 2.6% of the supply. So it's pretty well distributed, it seems. Yeah, I think it's if it's going to continue to go down in total supply, it's probably a good buy down here once it bottoms out. Liquid loans. So huge opportunities here. This APR has come down now from like 1,400% over the last couple of days. Maybe that's because pulse price is stabilizing. Maybe that's because liquidations are minimal now. I don't know exactly what all plays into that, but I've been looking at these pools on here, and there's definitely opportunity here for people. There's a play here with liquid loans where if you have a bunch of pulse and you decide to open a vault, now would be the time to do so if you think the pulse bottom is going to be in, because you could get a generational vault put in. And I think that's what we're waiting for is, who's going to get the vault put in during the bottoming period here, and then the price goes higher, and then you have a vault that goes back to the OG days, and price goes up forever from there, and you could borrow an unlimited amount of pulse basically because you snipe to the bottom and put a vault in, so you could just keep borrowing more and more USDL off your vault the longer, the higher the price of pulse goes. So there is definitely that. I think everybody that's aware of liquid loans is trying to do that. They snipe that bottom and get that best price, and they get their vault set up there. So
is that what you think? That's what accounted for some of these liquidations that took place, or?
yeah, I think so if you go to where's the analytics? This collateral ratio, let's see, where's that at? 213%. That's like too low. Like the global ratio should be, I think should be higher, but people like to take risks, and so there's 548 billion pulse in here, but the total collateral ratio to USDL issued is 230%. I think the safe way to play that is kind of what the haunted strategy employs, or maybe some of these other strategies that over collateralize it by 5x or 10x the amount. Meaning it would be amazing if this was like 1,000% global collateral ratio and there was 50 trillion pulse in here. I don't even think there's that much available in the total user supply. I think it's closer to 10 trillion or 11 trillion or something total pulse in the user supply. So just to see even 5 trillion pulse, 10x more locked up in here, half of the total user supply, to collateralize for the same amount of USDL or a little bit more would be pretty cool, because then we would have less of a risk of that downside price action, and people predatorially trying to push the price down to liquidate people for their own benefit, right? But yes, to your point, yeah, that's probably got something to do with why this down move came in. Somebody came in here to liquidate people. The other thing I noticed was with the USDL token itself, because the APRs have been so high, people have been chasing the stability pool here, putting their USDL and staking it to get the additional pool share. The additional loan rewards that for the first 42 days of the launch period, there's additional loan rewards being paid out to people putting in the stability pool. And I think there was a bunch of folks that was buying USDL just to get into that pool, and that was pushing the price of one USDL up to like $1, 4 cents, 5 cents, 6 cents, 10 cents. So it was like 10% higher than $1 for this particular candle. But yeah, I mean, it's been ranging between $1.2 to $1.04 for a couple days now, and I think part of that is attributed to that high APR on the stability pool.
I think they opened up redemptions too. I don't know. I was on the website and I didn't try it, but I saw that I could actually put an amount in and all that to do a redemption where I would redeem USDL. Maybe somebody else knows that, or
Yeah, not sure. But I thought I was under the impression that it was longer. It was going to be longer.
Yeah,
but
yeah, me too. That's what I was saying. Maybe it changed. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe someone in the chat knows. 42 days. 42 days are the LP rewards. Stability pool never ends. Okay. Redemption available after 14 days or on the 15th. So 5 more days. If that's right.
Got it.
Lone token had a nice little move. Now it is still being hyperinflated. This looks like a local top to me because of the time and price here. So it went up 130% over a day, one day, 8 hours, but then in just the next 9 hours, it's down 37%. Someone came in here to snipe these lows. Not saying it can't recover here, but this is usually where things start to top out because this curve here is sharper than the curve that came up. So it's just geometry here on this one. We'll have to see, but it looks like loan might be topped out for the short term. Getting loan on the lows, wherever that bottom ends up being, is a good play because it gives you the opportunity to then stake it for rewards down the road. All right, another coin I've been interested in lately is so KG brought me into a call and tried to explain to me how internet money swaps are giving better quotes than PulseX, PHUX, 9-inch, and Pius, all of them. Like it's just doing better. And what these screenshots are showing us is for a guy that wanted to swap $100 of Pulse for PulseX, in this top case, the recommended option on Internet Money Swap, it was a $100 trade, but he was making 8 cents on the deal. So even with Internet Money fee included in there, that was a profitable trade. Like that's pretty cool. If that is a trend and they either push this update and go live with it, or if it's already live, and Internet Money in app swap is continuously giving you the best quotes because it's quoting, 9mm, 9-inch, all of the dexes and all of the dex aggregators, which is what's promised. This may be the place that you want to go to start swapping.
That would be sick, man.
Yeah. And in addition to that, they have like a buy and burn feature, which is pretty cool as well, that I'm excited about for Axis token, because like we may be looking at something like that. But mainly was like if you do end up capitulating into this because it's giving you the best rates, and you start using Internet Money Wallet and it's double audited, 2 security audits. The second audit I think is coming out soon. If you end up going this route because it is going to give the best quotes, I wanted to look at the time chart because this is what pays dividends. And if this is going to be the place to buy or not, I would want to know, right? So just looking into the price chart itself, SAC rate was around 3 zeros and an 8. So SAC rate's here. And,
nice.
It's only like 30% off that level roughly. So you're paying like a little bit of a premium over SAC rate right now. It's like 37%. But if this ends up being where it bottoms out, I don't know if it's over the next few weeks, months, and then Internet Money pushes this update, brings their stats page online.
KG says it's already live.
Okay, and then starts to get awesome, and then starts to get adoption as it should if it's giving the best quotes. Holding some of this time token to get paid the dividends would maybe be a smart decision. I know KG is quoted as saying that MetaMask, does millions of dollars of volume a day. Like I think it was like hundreds of millions of dollars of volume in the peak of the bull run. And if you could get a percentage of those MetaMask fees, would you not want a percentage of those MetaMask fees? I know by holding their token. This token supply and time is limited in amount. I believe there's shy of 2 billion. So getting 10 million of the supply today, which is going to cost you like $13,000 at current prices, could get you 1% of that millions of dollars a day in trading volume that may eventually come through Internet Money, and it would come on the back of their in-app swaps being more valuable and just the overall wallet being rock solid, right? And the longer that this goes on, the less opportunity there's going to be. insofar as that their wallet is rock solid and stands the test of time itself. So I want you guys to keep your eye on that one. Before, I wasn't too interested because there's other options, but now after talking to KG a little bit more, I think there might be some opportunity there, especially down here near SAC prices on the time token. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. In addition to that, we got the Pius chart here. Pius is broken the trend line, and yeah, I don't know. I'm actually looking at this because it's one that Markable and Cabana suggested. Surprised that it actually broke this trend so easily, but I don't really know what the overall supply dynamic looks like on this one. But this one as well, you're getting paid. Eventually, you're going to get paid dividends for holding. There's only 100 million of these. Only 760 holders. To get 2% of the supply, you need 2.6 million. What's 2.6 million cost you today? Looks like, wow, it's 3 cents, huh? That's crazy. That's expensive. So it's almost $90,000 for 2 or 3% of the supply. So what you'd want if you're a buyer of this, you want to see this thing get rejected off this line, come down hard, and just bottom out down here at like maybe a penny. It's a long ways down there, so I don't know. I'm not saying this is the trajectory. I'm just saying people that get rid of their supply here at these prices, if they're sitting on 80 grand of it, are making a mistake if Pius continues to be the place where trades are getting executed.
There's also, if you go back somewhere in October, I believe, that first big green candle in October. No, the first one. Yeah. I believe at some point they tweeted out that their first, because they have a buy and burn, or at least they have a buy and then they use that for liquidity, I believe, or something like that. That green candle, that is the buy feature. So at any moment, they could just trigger that.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy in this token, and just the trend that we're seeing overall in the markets is that you can earn dividends, and then also there's this buy and burn now most of the time in tokens, and it just creates really cool dynamics.
Yeah, what I've been saying lately is that if your token doesn't have a buy and burn, it's like a Gen 1 DeFi token. Like the only way forward is that your token has to have some form of no admin keys buy pressure added into the chart, because it just helps push it along. Like you can't in TradFi, it's stock buybacks, but in crypto DeFi specifically, it's going to be buy and burns, right? Mm-hmm. To limit supply, and it curbs the supply to a healthy amount and pumps the price.
So just as a thought experiment, if you're here on this chart right now on this price, and you would be the team, let's say, would you pump it now to get over that trend line, or do you think that wouldn't make sense because it will just break down again?
Well, so what's interesting is like back here when this pump happened, there was only like $5,000 of liquidity in there, but now there's $63,000 of liquidity in there, which makes this pump cost more.
Yeah, exactly.
So depending on the team's goals, they may decide, like, I don't know who's all providing LP. We can take a look by clicking and expanding in here. Looks like one person's providing all the LP, basically. So if they pull that LP down, then maybe they would want to use the buy and burn, right? Some people will scream market manipulation or whatever they're going to say. But look at guys, this is DeFi, and if you hold coins, it's your keys, your cheese. You can do whatever you want. And so yeah, my suggestion would be before running the buy and burn, why wouldn't you, if price appreciation is the goal, why wouldn't you pull down the LP, then enact the buy and burn to get more of a percent gain? Additionally, if price stability is the goal, then you'd leave the LP in there and you just keep this thing range bound for as long as you want until maybe the contract goes live for paying dividends, right? So maybe the goal here is to just let people accumulate. Maybe this rounds out double bottom, starts to build up some steam, and then break out, and then range, and then But this whole range bound thing gives people a chance to accumulate and between like 1 and 4 cents for a while. So maybe that's what it depends on the goal of the project. Some goals want maximum fundamentals. Some projects they want ranging. Like look at XRP. They just wanted to keep it between 50 cents and $1.50 for the last, or 50 cents and $1 for the last like 6 years or however long it's been, since 16, 17, because that's their market, right? Is payments. So, but the XRP guys haven't figured that out yet. Sorry, XRP guys. All right. Communists. So this is communists on Pulse Chain. This is an important one. So we'll go through, since we're talking the HEX derivatives, we'll talk communists, then we'll talk Hedron. And when I get to the Hedron part, Crispy, come back up, because this was your idea to do. So communists, this is valued in Pulse Chain, and it's did nothing but go up against Pulse Chain since June of this year on the 20th. And this has been accumulated by, Johnny Sachs has doxed himself and put 12 quadrillion of these things in a time pays me vault, and said that he's fully supporting this token as the secret weapon to pump HEX to the moon and beyond, and give new stakers that stake long a chance to get a bit of a rebate on their stake by claiming their free Comm when they make that long-term stake. I like the idea. I think it's bullish. I'm a buyer of Comm. I also have lots of stakes, so I have Comm coming down the pipe. But this was a huge V-bottom reversal pattern, and it looks like it's above the downtrend now, and it could actually start to build up some steam and potentially go higher. At some point, getting 100 trillion of these is going to be out of reach for most people. Currently, it's about, let's see here, 100, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, hundreds, thousands. Yeah, 100 trillion is $1,500 right now currently. To be in the top page, you need to be like the top 10 wallet. You need a quadrillion of them, which is about $15,000. To execute those buys, though, there's only 135 trillion on market. So on this particular pair, I think a lot of these are actually available through PHUX. So when you hit internet money wallet swaps or you hit the Pius swaps, it'll actually pull liquidity from that other exchanges, those dexes. So, but yeah, you don't want to come in with 50 million pulse buy, because there's bots that'll come in on these like little tiny coins with tons of zeros, and they'll just eat up all of your buy. Like I've made a buy before where I fat fingered and like the bot took like 80% of it for itself. And then, so you want to be very careful when you're buying the comms. The USD chart looks a little different. It's more parabolic looking. But on this particular chart, we haven't broken the downtrend, so keep that in mind. But I'm more interested in Pulse valuation of this one or the HEX valuation. So if you look at like Comm, HEX.
Because liquidity-wise is always also more tied to that, right?
To HEX, correct, yeah.
So it makes more sense to look at in HEX terms.
Right. So yeah, exactly. And it shows a different pattern. So like on this one, it's a giant pennant, right? So it's like more of like a falling wedge, right? So at some point here, Comm, like worst case, break out and go. Best case, it's done, and it breaks out, grind line, markup, grind line, markup, something like that. Markupable.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, keep your eyes on the communist chart. I think that one's destined for big things this cycle, in any event. And then Hedron. Maybe you want to take the lead on this one, Crispy?
Well, I don't have a whole lot to say other than we've been tracking, both Ethereum and Pulse Chain for these assets. Of course, we're all waiting to hear from Alex about what he might have in mind for bringing everything together. Soth put out a pretty good video. A couple other people have done some videos kind of detailing that, so we won't go into that here. But I think if you take a look at the Hedron and Ethereum price versus the Pulse Chain Ethereum, excuse me, the pulse chain Hedron price, it's getting really close, like really close. Like they're almost the same numbers almost, but maybe I'm off about that, but
No, right now it's at 6 zeros and a 1213 on Ethereum, and it's at 6 zeros and a 1277 on Pulse. So
yeah,
even the
yeah.
shapes of these charts are very similar, and it's kind of almost like the market is pricing in the eventual V2 launch, and they're getting closer and closer to parity.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting.
So these yellow dashed lines are the ranges that you see on this pulse chain chart. Is what you see here on the ETH chart, and that's where the breakdown occurred too.
Yeah, can you tell what month they started going in this direction, or has that always been the same? Or meaning
I'm
that
just
they were
gonna
getting
I'm just
closer
gonna eye it
together?
up.
Yeah. Well, about 4 months ago is when Alex announced.
So July. So let's use the SEC breakdown. July 31st. July 31st. Yeah. So let's see. What's the price here? So on July 31st, the low was 6 zeros 1945. 6 zeros 2156. So within those few days there, they started to like probably track a little more. Let's see, what's this low here? On August 25th, it was 164. August 25th. Yeah, so Ethereum Hedron underperformed this time frame. So really, it's been since this pumpage here in October. It seems like we're really started to track.
You start following along.
26.99.
Well,
Yeah.
I imagine some people were speculating for sure. Pick up their Hedron off of Ethereum in order to kind of bring that together, right? It probably helped a lot.
I just think it's neat that the market is smarter than I anticipated, and they are already pricing that in.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Of course, I don't know the details, but I mean, it's going to be another great thing to kind of experience, be part of, to see the interoperability between two different chains using the same tokens. What does that exactly look like? How does it incorporate E-hex, hex? Don't know. It could change the world as we know it.
Inevitably.
At least the Hedron Icosa ecosystem.
Hedron and Icosa are right. They're the most undervalued out of anything. So
And Hedron sometimes just does a 30x, right?
What's that?
And Hedron sometimes just rips like crazy, right?
Yeah, like here it did a 30x.
30, yeah.
Yeah, so not saying this is definitely not going to happen tomorrow, but
no,
you could see a 30x by February if that was going to happen. So let's say he launches an update. Let's just say he launches let's say Hex gets bullish in February and March, and then he launches that contract around the same time. Wouldn't that act like rocket fuel, perhaps?
it's still tied to a T-shirt, so
yeah, this one's going to happen eventually. I 30x or not, I don't know. Do you make a new all-time high here or do you not? I don't know. I think the thing to watch here is actually Hedron Hex. It's got a completely different chart structure than what you see there. So if you look here against Hex, it's been basically range bound.
Oh wow,
completely different chart structure. Because Hex has gotten nuked. So
true.
What's this triple currently setting up for 1, 2, triple bottom, higher low, beginning of a new trend. This could be the beginning of a new trend for Hedron. So you heard it here first.
I can remember Alex at some point, I think it was last year or something, or maybe half a year ago, he was saying that now that everything is tied together, not necessarily mostly tied to the two stable coins, just everything goes down like way more, but then everything goes up way more. Like he was mentioning like a trampoline, and you see that here as well, right? You see Hedron being absolutely murdered in US dollar price, but then I've never looked up the Hedron hex chart, but now you see it and you're like, okay, seems kind of all right.
Also, this phenomenon of a price of a coin wicking down hard and then recovering, but then always coming back down to meet that wicked low.
Yeah, that's fascinating how that happens so many times.
Yeah. I mean, it happened on Axis as well here where we,
Yeah, I can remember seeing that.
let's see here, I got to go to 12 hour. Yeah, we're wicked down here on the 27th, and then here we came back down almost to test the lows one more time. So, all right, I got a couple more coins, guys. I see people are filtering in and out. I want to look at the HOA chart, so get your HOA Tang Gang friends in here. But before I do that, I was going to pull up Titan X because there is a cohort of hexagons, OGs, that are putting money into this thing and seeing results. Now, I don't know if this ends up poorly for people on the long-term end of this contract, but currently some of these miners are paying out, for a 10 ETH input, they're making like 70x their returns. So guys I got in earlier that want to try to play this risky game of getting miners in or however they want to play the Titan X game. Right, currently it's grinding. This looks like an attempted reversal here at this level. I'd like to see that it maybe reverses here, but better prices aren't the worst thing. So for a breakdown to the 618 and then a V bottom out and then move, this would be the ultimate buying opportunity here. Not much more to say on this one. This is Titan X measured in WETH, but I do expect that this double top here maybe gets broken. Hopefully, not looking like that right now in the immediate, but looking like that perhaps that could come down the pipe. Anyway, I'm not as well versed in this one, but definitely wanted to let people know that it was happening. Last one, guys, HOA token. Shout out to the Tang Gang. This is one of the other best performing charts on Pulse Chain. On the linear chart here, it made a new high and it's come down since. And I think this one might be done for a while. Could be wrong, of course, but MACD cross bearish here. When was that? December 3rd. And here was the last time it crossed bearish here. And it saw a 37% decline. So this thing actually holds up pretty good when it sells off. 36% from here would be 0077, which would put you at another. So maybe you start DCing in at a 20% down from current prices, although it's about to lose this support structure here on this rising wedge, which is typically a bearish reversal pattern. So, I mean, ideally this would come a lot farther down and maybe retest this support level here, which is where the breakout, retest, and then resumption occurred. So I would actually like to see it come down a bit further before I'd be interested. From that low to that high, currently it's not even broken the 236. So, I mean, we want this thing to come down at least to the red line, if not down a little bit further to the 618 here at 002, 0037. First level is 0075, 0077 for your first little buy. MACD, bearish cross, yeah, RSI kind of just chopped. But there is momentum coming back in on the stochastic on here on the daily. So short-term pop, fake out, and then a shot down probably in the short term for HOA. All right. Well, we covered a ton this episode. I appreciate you guys so much. Mark, it's always wonderful working with you. Crispy as well. You bring the heat and the data and analytics side. Anytime I need a chart, I just say it and it's there. Snap my fingers. So I appreciate you guys. Everybody that's been here for a couple hours, I appreciate you guys for being here. I guess for the outro, we'll play a couple videos for you guys, courtesy of Markable.
Grab your popcorn.
Grab the popcorn.
Go, Mark.
All right. Any last words before I pull up the videos?
Well, I make videos now, so if anyone wants some videos to be done, send a message to Proof of Beard on Twitter, should be easy to find. It's this logo that you see right here. And if it could be anything, if you have a cool project or if you have something going on in your own business or whatever, just talk to me. Maybe we can make something happen. Yeah, appreciate being here. It's definitely one of the best play. Every time, man. Every time I talk to other people that are not in the spaces that we are, like in the real world, I'm just very grateful for where I'm at, because the people that I talk to on a daily basis is in a completely different realm than most people. So yeah, appreciate everyone being here for sure.
Thanks, Mark. Crispy?
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, hey, if you're interested in hex mining or you're a miner, tune in Hexfire.io. We're talking about mining all the time, and starting to get into what I'll call ladder analysis. So if somebody's interested in that, contact me. We'll hook you up. But otherwise, thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys.
Not often you see 2-hour axisALiVE streams.
No, not at all, actually. This will be the last one for a while. Not because I don't want to, but because I can't. All right, thanks, guys.
See ya.